All right, diving in today, we've got this talk, Lessons at the, well, it's called,
Yeah.
by Susan H. Porter.
Okay. Yeah.
And she gave this at the April 2022 General Conference
Mm-hmm.
of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. So big deal, global women's session,
Yeah. Tons of people.
millions tuning in. But here's what's really fascinating to me about this. Porter's life took a huge turn when her husband passed away while they were serving a mission
Oh, wow.
in Eastern Europe. Just think about that for a sec.
Yeah.
The shift in perspective that must bring.
Yeah. Profound, right? And in the midst of all that, she was searching for direction. And
Yeah.
get this, the inspiration for this talk, the one we're diving into, hit her while she was looking through a catalog.
Really? A
Which
catalog.
goes to show, right? Sometimes those big insights come from the most unexpected places.
Isn't that amazing?
Mm-hmm.
Makes you wonder what we're all missing in our everyday lives. So Porter shares 3 key lessons from this story of the Samaritan woman at the well.
Okay.
And we're going to break those down and think about how they apply maybe to your life too.
Right. Yeah. So the first lesson is all about recognizing that your past, all those experiences, they don't have to dictate your future.
Okay.
The second one focuses on the power we have within us to create change. And the third one, it reminds us that even the small actions, they can have a big impact.
I love that. Okay, let's start with that first one then. Your past doesn't define your future.
Yeah.
Porter uses that story from the Bible, the Samaritan woman at the well, to illustrate this point. The woman has a complicated past, 5 marriages, and currently in a relationship that wasn't really accepted at the time.
Yeah.
So not exactly someone society would celebrate.
Yeah, no, you're right. And that's what makes this encounter with Jesus so remarkable. He chooses to reveal himself as the Messiah to her.
Wow.
Someone who was looked down on, judged by others. That act of acceptance, it speaks volumes about transformation, the possibility of second chances.
Powerful.
It is.
So Porter also shares how this story gave her hope after her husband died. Like, it's a personal testament to the idea that no matter what you've gone through, there's always room for growth, new beginnings.
And that's the takeaway for anyone listening, right? Think about a time when you felt defined by a past mistake, a past experience. This lesson encourages us to see that those moments don't have to dictate who we are, what our future holds. We always have the potential for growth, positive change, finding purpose.
So powerful. Okay, that second lesson. The power is in us. Porter's emphasizing that each of us has this inherent ability to bring about positive change. And she encourages people to get involved, to actively do good.
Now here's where she connects that idea. Making and keeping commitments
Yeah.
to ourselves, to others. She believes that honoring those commitments, whether it's staying true to your values, nurturing a relationship, pursuing a goal, it brings inner strength. Gives you
Yeah.
clarity, direction in life.
It's like building that foundation.
Yeah,
Integrity, purpose, and then you can move forward with confidence.
exactly. Recognizing we have the agency to shape our own lives, make choices that align with our values and aspirations.
All right, third lesson. Even small actions can have a big impact. Porter uses 3 really vivid metaphors here: salt, leaven, and light. And each one, even in small amounts, has this ability to transform something way bigger than itself.
Think about it. Salt, it enhances the flavor of food.
Right.
Leaven makes bread rise.
Yeah.
And light dispels darkness. Small things. But they have the power to change the entire nature of something else.
It's like that ripple effect.
Yeah, exactly.
On small actions, setting up a chain of events.
Yeah.
Big consequences.
Absolutely. And Porter brings this idea to life with some really moving stories.
Okay, like what?
So one that stood out to me, there's this account of a young servant girl who was captured, taken to a foreign land. She was in a powerless position, but she had the courage to speak up, share her faith.
Wow.
She told,
Wait, is this the one with Naaman?
yes, Naaman, the military commander suffering from leprosy.
Right. Okay.
And this young girl, despite being vulnerable, powerless, she spoke up, told Naaman's wife about a prophet in her homeland who could heal him.
It's amazing to think about that. That simple act of faith, speaking up when it could have been dangerous, it led to Naaman's healing. A testament to the power of even the smallest acts of kindness, courage.
And it challenges us, right, to think about the ways we might hesitate to act. Maybe we think our efforts won't matter, or we're not in a position to make a difference.
It's easy to feel that way.
Yeah, but the story reminds us we never really know the impact of our actions.
So I've got salt, which represents that power of small acts of faith to bring about change. What about leaven? How does Porter connect that to the idea that small actions matter?
Okay, so leaven, right, it represents hope, perspective, especially when things are tough. Porter shares this story of a woman struggling with grief, sadness on Christmas morning.
Oh, wow.
She felt completely overwhelmed, wanted to just stay in bed, but then she had a moment of prayer,
Yeah,
found the strength to get up and make the day special for her children.
that's so powerful.
Yeah.
It highlights that inner strength we all have to choose hope even when we're feeling lost, overwhelmed. It's about finding those little glimmers of light in the darkness and letting them guide us.
Yeah, it's about recognizing that even when we're going through tough times, we can still make a positive impact. Maybe it's a simple act of kindness, listening, a gesture of support,
The little things.
but those little things can make a world of difference.
And finally, light.
Right.
That connects to the power of faith to light up even the darkest times.
This ties back to Porter's own experience so well.
Right.
She found light and guidance in that simple picture of the Samaritan woman at the well. It helped her through a really painful time.
And I think that's one of the most beautiful takeaways from this whole talk. We can all be sources of light for others.
Yeah.
Offer hope, encouragement when it's needed most. Sometimes it's just being present, listening without judgment, offering a kind word, a gesture.
Recognizing that our actions, no matter how small they seem, can ripple out and create positive change.
And that's empowering. It is. It reminds us that we're not powerless when things get tough. We can choose hope, act with courage, make a difference.
Absolutely.
Before we wrap up this part, there's one more thing I want to touch on. Porter talks about making and keeping commitments.
Oh, yeah, good point. That ties back to that second lesson.
Right.
The power within to create change.
Yeah.
She believes that honoring those commitments, whether it's to ourselves, to loved ones, to something bigger, it can give us strength and guidance.
She even says something like, as we strive to honor those commitments, we'll receive blessings, strength, spiritual insights that we never had before.
Yeah, it's like tapping into this wellspring of strength, clarity. When we're grounded in our values, committed to something meaningful, we find the courage and resilience to face those challenges.
So we've explored 3 powerful lessons from this talk. What stands out to you? What's resonating most?
Well, honestly, it's hard to separate them, you know? They're all so intertwined. You can't really have the power within without recognizing that your past isn't a life sentence. And those small acts of courage, kindness, faith, that's how we tap into that strength.
It's like a cycle.
Yeah.
You realize you have the power to change. You take a step forward, even a small one. And that act, no matter how small, it reinforces that belief in your own power. So the beautiful upward spiral.
And it makes me think of what Porter said about commitments.
Yeah.
It's not just about willpower, gritting your teeth. It's about connecting to something bigger than yourself. A spiritual belief, a deep personal value, a cause you're passionate about. That's the fuel for those small acts to make a lasting impact.
That's where the salt, leaven, light idea really clicks.
Yeah.
It's not just random acts of goodness. It's about infusing our actions with that deeper purpose. Salt enhances, leaven transforms, light illuminates. It's about bringing something meaningful to the world, even in little ways.
And that brings us back to you, the listener. As we wrap up this first part, what's one small step you can take today, inspired by these lessons? What seed of change, no matter how tiny, can you plant in your own life or in the lives of others?
Remember, it's not about those grand gestures, those overnight transformations. It's about consistent, intentional actions, infused with purpose, creating those ripples of positive change. Porter's talk reminds us that the power to make a difference is within each of us. So what will you do with that power? What will your salt, your leaven, your light look like today?
That's something for us all to think about
It is.
as we go about our day. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into Lessons at the Well.
Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep diving deep.
Back again with Lessons at the Well.
And man, there's so much packed into this one talk.
There is.
We've already got 2 big ideas, right?
Mm.
How the past doesn't have to limit our future and how we each have that strength to make a change. But before we get to that last lesson, I think it's worth circling back to Porter's own story. It adds so much. When her husband passed unexpectedly, she was dealing with grief, loss, and just tons of uncertainty about the future.
It makes you think, right? How we all look for guidance during tough times. Where do we turn when we need inspiration?
Yeah, where do we find that strength?
It's interesting, isn't it? In her case, it came from a surprising place. Flipping through a catalog, saw a picture of the Samaritan woman at the well, and boom,
Wow.
that sparked the whole talk.
When the student is ready, the teacher appears.
Right.
Sometimes the insights are right there, just waiting for us to be open.
I love that. And her willingness to share her own journey, it makes these lessons, I don't know, More relatable.
Definitely. It's not some detached theoretical thing.
Right, exactly.
It's real life.
Yeah, she's sharing what she learned through experience.
Exactly. Makes it so much more powerful. Okay, so back to that third lesson.
Mm-hmm.
Even small actions can have a big impact. Porter uses the metaphors of salt, leaven, and light.
And they're brilliant.
They are.
Instantly relatable. We all know pinch of salt changes the whole dish. Leaven makes bread rise. Simple things, huge impact.
That ripple effect.
Yeah.
One small thing sets off a chain of events.
And Porter brings it to life with these stories. One that really got to me is the one about the young servant girl taken captive,
Oh, yeah.
forced to work in a foreign household.
Well, Naaman, right.
You got it. The commander with leprosy.
Okay, right.
And this girl in a vulnerable position, she spoke up, shared her faith,
Wow.
told Naaman's wife about a prophet back home who could heal him.
It's wild, right? That one act of faith, speaking up when it could have been dangerous, leads to his healing.
Powerful, right?
It is.
It challenges us to think about when we hesitate to act. Do we think our efforts won't matter, or that we're not in position to help?
Easy to fall into that trap.
So easy. But this story, it's a reminder we never truly know the impact.
Okay, so we've got salt, small acts of faith making a difference. What about leaven? How's that connected to this idea?
Leaven, remember, it's hope and perspective, especially when things are tough. Porter tells this story, a woman on Christmas morning, struggling with grief and sadness,
Oh, man.
completely overwhelmed, wanted to stay in bed, but then a moment of prayer,
Yeah.
and she finds the strength to make the day special for her kids.
Such a powerful story.
It is.
It shows that inner strength, choosing hope when you feel lost,
It's about finding those glimmers of light and letting them guide you.
letting them guide your actions, even.
Exactly. Recognizing that even in the tough times, we can still make a difference. A kind act, listening, a gesture of support,
The little things.
they can change everything.
And then there's light.
Light, that power of faith to shine in the darkest times.
And it ties back to Porter's own experience so well.
Doesn't it? Finding guidance in that simple image, helping her through such a hard time.
And the takeaway, right, we can all be those sources of light.
Absolutely.
Offer hope, encouragement when it's needed. Sometimes just being there, listening, offering a kind word,
Our actions, no matter how small, they have a ripple effect.
creating change.
And that's what's empowering.
It really is. We're not powerless.
No,
We can choose hope, act with courage, make a difference.
absolutely.
Okay, before we move on, there's one last thing I want to touch on from Porter's talk.
Right.
Making and keeping commitments.
Yes, that's key. It goes back to that second lesson,
Right.
the power we have to create change.
Exactly.
Honoring those commitments, whether to ourselves, loved ones, something bigger, that can be a source of strength.
She even says, as we strive to honor those commitments, we'll receive blessings, strength, spiritual insights we never had before.
It's like this well of inner strength. When we're grounded, committed to something meaningful, we find the courage, the resilience to face anything.
So we've explored these three lessons. What stands out to you most? What resonates?
One talk. So many things to think about.
Isn't it amazing? We've been going deep on this Lessons at the Well talk, and what strikes me is how Porter blends her personal story with these really insightful teachings.
Yeah, I agree. It's not just the lessons themselves, it's how she shares them. Sharing her own experience with loss, that inspiration from the catalog, it makes it so real.
It's like she's saying, look, I've been there,
Yeah.
and these ideas helped me. Maybe they can help you too.
Right. Not preaching, just sharing what she's learned.
And that makes it so powerful.
It does.
So of those three lessons, the past, the power within, small acts, what resonates most with you?
You know, they're all connected, aren't they?
Yeah.
You can't really separate that inner power from recognizing that your past isn't everything. And those small acts, the courage, kindness, faith, that's often how we tap into that strength.
It's true. It's like a cycle.
It is.
Realizing you have the power to change, then taking a step, even a tiny one.
Yeah.
And that act, it reinforces that belief in yourself, a beautiful upward spiral.
And it reminds me of what Porter said about those commitments we make.
Yeah, the ones that give us strength.
Exactly. It's not just about willpower, forcing yourself. It's about connecting to something bigger, a spiritual belief, a value, a cause you're passionate about. That's what fuels those small acts to make a real difference.
That's where the salt, leaven, light thing really makes sense.
It does.
It's not just random acts of kindness. It's about putting that deeper purpose into what we do. Salt enhances, leaven transforms, light illuminates, bringing something meaningful to the world, even in small ways.
And so that brings us back to you listening.
Right.
As we wrap up, what's one small step you can take today, inspired by these lessons? What tiny seed of change can you plant in your own life or someone else's?
It's not about those huge gestures, those overnight changes.
Yeah.
It's consistent, intentional actions with purpose, creating those ripples.
Hmm.
Porter's talk reminds us that we all have the power to make a difference. So what will you do with it? What will your salt, your leaven, your light look like today?
Something to think about as we go about our day. And thanks for joining us for this deep dive into Lessons at the Well.
Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep diving deep